Welcome back to the Blue Sense podcast. So this week we are, what are we now, 72 hours or something out from Black Friday weekend. So we're giving the team a break from recording duties, and we've brought back the original goat of our content, Nathan. Thank you for joining me. Excellent. So look, I wanted to have a chat this week because I feel like it's a bit of a trope where every year you see, whether it's events or whether it is content being churned out right before Black Friday, that is trying to speak to, hey, here's these 10 things that you've forgotten about. Here's 3 strategies that you should drop into your account tomorrow. And the reality is that this is pretty clickbaity and sort of a little bit too late for conversations that we've been having for several months now. So I wanted to go back to a piece of content that you put out in August and have a conversation more so from the frame of what do we want to do when something's going perhaps not as well as we might like on Friday morning, Saturday over the weekend of Black Friday weekend, to sort of really stress that idea of like, let's not panic, let's not freak out. We know the core principles that we work around and that we've been planning for this particular event for a while. And what are the ways we might think through those problems or approach them slightly differently over the weekend, given this will be coming out on Thursday. So let's start with the easiest one is the top line is our sale isn't going as well as we might have planned, right? Our revenue projection, we're not going to hit it. There are sort of multiple ways that I think brands might respond to this. We might look and say, oh, let's just crank up ad spend, or let's quickly put together another offer that we haven't fully considered. So I guess the first question is like, what are the things we really need to remember in that particular moment? And then how do we respond?
The first thing is getting an understanding of whether it's a forecasting issue or an actual execution issue, right? Because there's going to be a lot of people that walk into Black Friday with, I know a really common one is like, we just want to hit a mil on Black Friday, a mil on the day. And it's like, because it's a nice number, but it's like realistically, if we did proper forecasting, we looked at what we could realistically get you to, it might have been 920, right? And it's like, but it's not a nice number. And so in that case, that's where it's always nice to have a base bull bear case, so that you can at least, if you are putting up a number like a mil on the day and it's a bit of a stretch, you can at least write that off as a bull case and still have your base case in place. So that's kind of number one, is like, let's really look at the forecasting, etc. Were you being a bit too ambitious, or was this realistic? Let's say it isn't an issue, and let's say it's one of our clients who I don't think anyone's put ridiculous expectations forward, or we would have pushed back pretty hard. In which case, you want to look at the levers that you have available to you on the day, and you also want to be able to do some quick diagnostics as to why the sale might be off. So Ibra put out a really good video on this on the YouTube channel last week, which was called something like "How We Fixed a Black Friday Sale Within 24 Hours." And the reason being is a client went live with a Black Friday offer 2 weeks ago, but they had it as a discount code rather than as a markdown, which for anyone watching, do not do that. Like, I cannot stress enough, do not do a discount code. It's just too confusing for consumers. It will just tank your conversion rate and it won't perform well. Now, in this particular instance, they had to do it because of some technical reasons. Despite us pushing back, they specifically had to do that. And it was the first time they've ever done it. And so because of that, performance was terrible on the first 24 hours. So we made some strategical changes, quite a few of them. The primary one being that we just made the discount code very obvious in banners across every single page, product page, collection page, homepage. So it was very clear that you had to use this discount code to get the discount. And that automatically fixed performance overnight. So there are these quick wins that are available if you get a quick understanding of why performance might not be where it is, particularly if you're trying something new for the first time and you're not just rinse repeating last year's stuff. Then when it comes to like technical changes, I'd really want to be thinking about setting up some guardrails and some times of the day in which we are willing to make a decision. And so a bad way to approach Black Friday is to walk in, it hits 9 a.m. and you're like, sales aren't, so I don't think sales are where they should be. And then you just start making a bunch of changes. And then 10 a.m. comes by, you make some more changes. 11 a.m. comes by, you make some more changes. Then you start sending some panic emails out to try bump rev. Like, that's not the approach. The approach is to firstly know what your pacing should look like throughout the day. And the way that you do that, I've actually got an Instagram video that I'll drop in about an hour on my Instagram so people can watch it. But it is just Google Sheet last year, what did revenue pacing look like across the day as a percentage, not as a dollar value, because this year you're going to do a different revenue number. You might do way more, you might do way less. So let's look at what the percentage pacing looks like. And then the same across spend. And then this year you can use that as a reference point. So if last year we did 20% of our revenue by 8 a.m. and we spent 25% of our meta budget, what does that look like at 8 a.m. this Friday? Okay, have we done way more revenue than that? 30%, 40%. Okay, well, something's odd. Let's look into that. Or why did meta spend way more? Why did meta spend way less? And then you can build out very simple decision trees. I do one at 8 a.m., I do one at midday, and I do one at maybe 6 p.m., right? And so at 8 a.m., if revenue is below 20%, because last year we did 20%, then we consider a meta budget increase by 5%. And that's it. And so we keep it super strict and simple, based on logic and based on the expectations. And then once we hit 12 p.m., if we are under 45% of revenue realized against expectation, then, and we're hitting efficiency numbers, meta goes up again, and we increase budget in real time. You want to keep it simple, but you want to keep it grounded in like objective reality based on what happened last year.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, the code is an interesting one that client you speak of. Like the singer was like, I had a brand I shop with every year around this time that I used last week, and I won't call them out on the pod, but yeah, you get to the checkout and there's nothing there, and it was then going back through multiple pages. Actually, had to go back to the EDM to find the code for it. And this is a brand that I've shopped with for years, and so I was like pretty determined to make the conversion. But you can see a bunch of people coming off an Instagram ad just bouncing straight out of that flow.
It's a terrible idea
in that case. All right, so then we've got the pacing of our sale, the pacing of our budget. I think the next thing is looking at your efficiency target as you're going through that, and understanding that you are in a offer period where you're usually going to have some form of suppressed margin. So losing track of what that efficiency target needs to look like relative to what it might have looked like in October or any other normal month of the year. And so if that's not going to plan, what's the pivot, or what's the panic station move that we're trying to avoid?
So there's a few things that can skew this a lot. And so kind of coming back to the pacing by hour, one important consideration is that when you send an EDM out, which you're probably going to send multiple on Black Friday, particularly at least across that entire weekend, it's going to skew the numbers on an hourly basis massively. And so that can also impact your perception of how well the day is going. And so you might, for example, hit 8 a.m. and be like, oh, we're so far behind on what we did last year at this point in terms of percentage revenue realized. But last year you sent an EDM out at 7 a.m. and this year you're doing it at 8 a.m. And it's like, well, okay. So that those like particularly EDMs in itself just really need to be taken into consideration when we're looking at like MER calculations across the day, because MER is just going to instantaneously improve the second those EDMs go out, and efficiency is going to look better. But let's say you're like failing massively and your EDMs went out at the same time and your MER is looking like 50%. You're not stoked. What do? I think the game is lost in preparation at the end of the day. Like you get up and you do a presentation of 1,000 people, and it's not the presentation where the work is done. It's in the 500 practices beforehand. And so you are like, it's going to be a sad day. I'm going to feel a little bit helpless. But at that point, you do have to, this is where I think it is good, at least for every brand, to have clarity on worst case scenario. If MER is 50% and we're like, oh my God, do we want to make a balance sheet play or do we want to make a P&L play? And so all that means is, do we want to continue at this ridiculously inefficient MER, but make sure that we're moving inventory because we have so much inventory that we have to move? Or we don't care about holding this inventory. We didn't overbuy. It's fine. Let's pull spend down substantially. Let's do like a 50% cut on meta right now and ensure that we're at least profitable over this period and get our MER back into the guides that we wanted at, which like, let's say a sub 20%. Because that it's going to be very different brand to brand. There's no like just generalization of, oh, if you're at 50% mer, cut spend, because there's going to be some people that like this was their big opportunity to push a bunch of grade C inventory that they've been sitting on all year out of the door. That's probably one of the reasons why the sale might underperform too, is because you're pushing a bunch of stuff that no one wants. And so it's running ridiculously efficient. And then I kind of have to decide, right? Are we turning this into cash, or are we sitting back and being profitable for the day?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the Operators podcast did a really good chat on this topic about a month or so ago. Around, and it's something that we see with a lot of brands is you go from maybe they've worked in-house or they've worked with an agency of a particular level that's largely working to ROAS, right? We still see this all the time with very, very large brands even. And there's a level of maturity above that where they start looking at more P&L based metrics, hopefully at a minimum MER, ideally acquisition MER. And then there's a level beyond that again, which is understanding the cash flow position of the business. So it's become quite popular in the last couple of years, particularly in forums like LinkedIn, where you see a lot of brands, agency brands talking about more profitability on their offers and understanding. But then it's like, okay, well, it's still not an ideal position to be in. This is certainly not a position we ever want a brand to be in working with us, but sometimes it is a reality for their cash flow position that you need to make some bet like that that's going to improve just the cash flow health of the business through that particular period as well. Testing new creative. So in line with this whole idea of not panicking into a big inflection in spend or, you know, a crazy new offer. Again, we're talking about the most expensive CPMs of the year. So perhaps we're looking at an ad set level metric or an ad level metric where a creative isn't performing nearly as well as it might otherwise. What are we thinking about in those moments in terms of not introducing a bunch of new concepts?
I just would be thinking about doing that concepts in the account. There's like a nice to have, and then there's a position that I'd put myself in. If I was running a brand moving into Black Friday, I would have a bunch of backup creatives that don't even go live. It's not going to be a big allocation. It's like 5% of volume, maybe 10% of total volume, that are just like backup Hail Marys. If the account is not doing well and our primary ads are not performing a KPI, we at least have the ability to quickly introduce some other variants and potentially even turn off those high performers, which I wouldn't be going to turning off ads during the weekend because your ability to read performance is probably worse than Meta's ability to distribute spend. But that's number one. Number two, it'd be ideal to have a graphic designer on hand over the weekend, just so that you can effectively double down on stuff that is working. But once again, it all comes down to life. Like this is a half solution to what really should have been solved 4 weeks ago, which is that all your creative should already be done. You should be strategically staging creative across the weekend too. And so it's not like you just dump all your creative on day one of Black Friday and you hope for the best. Like people should have been staging this across, most people should be launched by now, I'd say. And then on Friday, their creative could change to be Black Friday day related. And then as they move into Cyber Monday, there should be an introduction of a bunch of Cyber Monday related ads. And then as they move into Tuesday, Wednesday, there should be a bunch of 24-hour extended sale based messaging ads that start to get rotated in if they're obviously extending through. If your creatives are underperforming on the Waste brand, it's another one of those situations where if you have a 50% MER, it's like, well, this was kind of lost in the prep work. Like you should have prepped better. But if you want to be safe, yeah, you could whip up some variants in real time and throw them in the account. I have seen situations where that has actually helped to bring back an underperforming Black Friday weekend.
Excellent. So if we talk about then like the revenue composition throughout the weekend, again, I think this is where when you're looking at either an efficiency target or a revenue target, there's going to be the component of that is really baked in a long time ago is that returning customer cohort, right? And so if that's sitting well outside where expectation is, it's returning to, that panic mode of a really hyperinflated MER or chasing a particular efficiency that just isn't going to get there. I'm not sure if there's a question from this point or if there's something different that you'd comment on, but I think it's really like maybe you'd look at a retention letter as opposed to a paid media letter. But
I'll throw an insight in here from the I put out last week, and it didn't do very well. So hopefully more people will listen to it.
there you go.
Well, it's like a relatively complex idea, but it is really important, which is that your efficiency. I think it's too late to change your efficiency KPIs. Probably you're probably in Black Friday right now, but it's worth noting that most people might have set them wrong. And the reason why most people might have set them wrong isn't because you discount and you need to recalculate MER. Like that's pretty basic. The reason why you probably set them wrong is that the customers that you acquire over this Black Friday weekend, quite frankly, suck. Like they're really bad customers. If you just go and look at your cohort graph in Shopify from last year, you'll see that your November cohort returns and returns to buy again, like at about 50% less than a normal cohort, particularly if you compare it to Jan or Feb. And so all the incremental customers that you acquire in November compared to a normal month, all of those people are discount-orientated consumers that only buy on heavy discount and during sales periods. And then people go, oh, well, they might be like, particularly during November and December, you have a lot of gift-giving customers, right? And so they give gifts to other people, and so they would be great. They're not. Like, these are also people that, yes, they might buy gifts, but they only buy them when they're 40% off. And so the reality is that all of those incremental new customers that you acquire are pretty bad. And so because of that, you can't have this reliance on second, third, fourth purchase to be able to drive profitability, particularly through this period. I think I'm gonna record an Instagram reel today or tomorrow or something, because there's another agency in Australia running an ad at the moment, which I think is the worst ad running in Australia, which effectively the messaging is 8-figure brands are crushing it because they're not profitable on first purchase. They make all their money on second and third. So their messaging is that you should just crank up spend until you're not profitable on acquisition, because that's how you become 8 figures. So much incompetence in that kind of recommendation to a broad sweeping market. Like it's particularly even worse. That ad's running right now during Black Friday. Like, do not run up your acquisition on Black Friday to negative profit contribution, because the customers aren't going to come back at anywhere near the rate of normal. So any back and napkin like LTGP to CAC calcs that you're running won't calc during November. Same thing that applies. Like the nice thing about Q1 is that your efficiency can drop, your AMO can get worse in Jan and Feb, but you will actually have a better LTGP to CAC because they're considerably better customers. And so your return cohorts get significantly better. And so you can actually, like, the thing is you should be more efficient on November than you think, and you can actually be a lot less efficient in Q1 than you think. And so people end up overspending in November and then underspending in Jan, Feb. And so just pulling that media spend across and reallocating into Q1 is usually the better decision once you run through.
Excellent. I mean, that's a perfect little tease for the episode we recorded in Cape Town, which we've been holding back till after Black Friday, on how to get the most out of your Q1 planning. So look out for that, guys, in the next week or two. So I think we finish here. In terms of the last one is Google. I think Google's the one we can easily panic into a different decision, right? Because it's going to over attribute like crazy. We've talked about this with all of our clients significantly over the last couple of months in our planning and our forecasting for the weekend and the wider sales period. But I think that's also an easy thing to forget when the day's not going particularly well. Overall MER doesn't look great, but perhaps Google's just popping off in attribution. So we don't want to panic and then double down on a huge amount of spend there. Do you want to just go back over that sort of idea and why it's really important to keep that in mind?
I labeled this as a big mistake that brands make during Black Friday, which is that they overspend on Google. You could actually change that recommendation to overspend on very bottom of funnel. Like, it's effectively the same recommendation. It's just that Google often is not conflated. It is very bottom of funnel. And people don't realize. Reason being, really simple. You crank up spend on Meta. Everyone comes over to Google, makes a Google search, clicks on your ad, buys. The attribution goes into Google. Not only that as well, so most of the people that buy on Black Friday, they've seen your brand before. They've probably even clicked on your website. If they've clicked on your website and they've clicked on it through a Google ad, Well, now Google's going to take all the attribution on the day of Black Friday. So anyone that's clicked on a Google ad in the last 30 days, when they purchase on Black Friday, gets attributed straight into Google. And so Google's going to end up taking attribution for a lot of your revenue on the day. And so what ends up happening is because of that, people just crank up spend and they spend a bunch more because they go, oh, Google's working so incredible. It's driving half of our revenue. Spend more, spend more, spend more. That's not what's happening. The real-time clicks aren't because of Google spend. It's because of Meta spend. And then a lot of the attributed revenue isn't because of the actual clicks occurring today. It's the clicks that occurred 2 weeks ago that Google's now claiming into today. Mm. And so I personally, and I've also seen some ads in the Australian market about this, where they're pushing like real-time Google spend changes to like do some kind of bid strategy where at 8 a.m. you need to crank budgets up, then you need to pull them, then you need to crank. I think it's way less applicable on Google than it is on Meta. Meta, you can do real-time intraday scaling, and it is actually quite effective. On Google, I think that's a good way to cook your campaigns. I also think it's just not applicable when Google is primarily sitting bottom of funnel for majority of brands. And that everything like we ever say on these podcasts comes with exceptions, right? There are brands that we have under management that are going to do 80% of their new customer revenue on Black Friday on Google. Google still does absolutely crush on top of funnel cold key terms for a lot of brands. I used to crush on Google Black Friday when I was drop shipping back in the day because it was very underutilized. Mm-hmm. But for majority of brands, they're going to overspend. So avoid doing that.
Yeah. All right. We'll leave it there. I mean, is there any other simple recommendation that comes to mind for you, or we'll wrap it there as a nice short little episode for Black Friday?
It's a big one that people will think of when they're thinking about real-time pivots on Black Friday is to pivot offer. Don't pivot offer. Like you've chose, like if you're going to dig your grave, don't name it. like don't try to change it in real time because you're just going to be scrambling. The messaging is going to be super confusing for everyone. If the offer didn't work, you did a bad job. Try again next year, kind of thing. Unless you're gonna continue running the sale for like a month, and obviously you can rotate the offer after the weekend and try a different offer for the following week. Is there any other common mistakes?
I mean,
like probably undersending on email frequency is probably the other big one. Is people get, this is mainly smaller brands. I think bigger brands should know like correct many calls as possible.
Know this, yeah. And Angus talks about it a lot, yeah. In terms of pushing a really high frequency. I was going to say that the other point I would make is you say, if the offer didn't work, it's like, okay, the marketing or ecom team, we haven't pulled it off this year, and so let's try again next year. But I think that also speaks to the importance of the health of your marketing calendar, and that you have these marketing moments throughout a 12-month period that are going to drive higher periods of demand. Because if you're hanging everything on this one weekend, and I've seen this at multiple agencies that I've worked at, where a brand can do as high as 25-30% of their annual revenue around Black Friday, which just seems insane from a like risk management point of view for growing a brand. But no, I think that's where, okay, if you're dusting yourself off on Monday morning or after Cyber Monday, it's like, how are we thinking about what that Q1, Christmas into New Year, into Valentine's Day, whatever the moment is, or what does your product release cadence look like in the coming months, so that you have these smaller moments to build around that will lead to a lot more. 100%. Overall,
good brands that we work with, which is majority of them, not going, we failed on Black Friday. Damn, we'll have to try again next year. It's like, we failed on Black Friday. That's fine. We got a massive influencer moment occurring on Jan 16th. We just have to crush that. So it's like, we failed here, but in 30 days we have another opportunity to also crush. Or then we have another opportunity in Feb, another in March. Like there's 12 opportunities to cause massive revenue peaks rather than just relying on one day of the year, which is like insanely risky.
Yeah. All right. We'll wrap it up there. Thanks for joining me, Nathan. Nice short little episode for leading into Black Friday. If you're an ecom team listening to this, good luck for the weekend. And remember, don't panic. We've got 5 or 6 good little anecdotes to remember here to help us get through that period. And if you are dusting yourself off on Monday or Tuesday next week, all the details will be in the notes below to give us a call, and we'd love to.
We've got a Melbourne event for Q1 in 3 weeks' time. So if you're an 8-9 figure brand, there's like 1 or 2 spaces left there.
December 12th. We'll post a link below to get involved. Thanks, Nathan.